Hi folks, right, I'm on the Zero SRS today, but I didn't want to do an out-and-out review of this bike because I've already reviewed the SRF, and I'll put a link in the top corner here to that review. Essentially this is the same bike but with a fairing. The riding position is the same, the motor, the power, all of the gizmos on it is exactly the same. This one is fitted with the charge tank. I'm not going to go through the details of the bike, I'll probably touch on a few of them, but what I wanted to talk about particularly was the oncoming of electric motorcycles and how long is it going to be before they become mainstream. And I'll do that by kind of talking through my experiences with this bike. We'll look at some of the pros, we'll look at some of the cons, and we'll see where we end up. One of the first things that people talk about with these bikes is the noise. So this is ready to go. I'm in street mode. If I twist the throttle, we're away. And the first time you ride one of these bikes, it's very eerie. This is the tunnel that I use in a lot of my videos. No brapping on this. The only noise I've really got is you can hear a slight hum or a whir from the motor, and the only other noise I've got is wind noise on the helmet and this whole loud pipe save lives debate. I personally don't think that's as relevant these days. If you're in a modern, well insulated car, then it's very difficult to hear bikes outside, particularly those bikes that are coming from behind you. I noticed when filtering, people don't really notice your bike until you're right beside the car. It can have an impact on pedestrians. Of course, when I reviewed the SRS, I had an element where I rode through a town and a guy jumped out of his van and just crossed the road in front of me. He was expecting to hear an internal combustion engine car, and he just walked across the road. That's just something you have to be wary of, but I think it's something that the public are becoming more used to. In terms of the noise from a riding perspective, actually it's quite pleasant. As you can see, I've stopped here. I'm in the middle of nowhere and it's just quiet. It's lovely. And I can see why, certainly on things like trail bikes, electric trail bikes, this is fantastic. Because one of the complaints that you get from people riding green lanes is that they're noisy and they're disturbing walkers and they're disturbing horses, etc. But on a bike like this, people are not even going to know you're there. But another benefit to the noise, I think, is fatigue. We've all ridden bikes that have got noisy exhaust, or even standard exhaust that are not particularly noisy. After a time, that the drone of the exhaust of the noise just all adds to the fatigue of riding. Yeah, look, see, quiet, silence. I thought I would miss the noise of a bike, and in some respects I do. But I also enjoy the fact that this doesn't make very much noise. I was talking to somebody who said that there are studies now that show that the quieter they are, the safer a vehicle is, and I think a lot of that is down to distraction and fatigue. And there'll always be the purist, and I'm a petrol head, so the sound of a beautiful bike is a thing to behold. But because these bikes are so much fun to ride, it kind of makes up for that lack of noise. So you can decide whether that's a pro or a con. I think the noise factor is definitely a pro element to it. Now another pro, which a lot of people talk about, is the performance of these machines. Because with the electric motor you're getting all of the power and all of the torque straight away. Whichever of these bikes you ride, you'll find that the acceleration is quite thrilling. So this, I'm rolling at 25 miles an hour now. One twist of the throttle and instantly we're up to 70 miles an hour, and it's so smooth and seamless, and there's no jerking, no running through the gears. Obviously there's no gearbox. It becomes quite addictive when you ride these things. For anybody that says, well, and there will be purists out there, I understand, that will never want to move away from a proper gearbox. I'll come across that when I talk to people about the Africa Twin DCT. But if you've never ridden one of these, don't write them off until you've had a go. Get out and do a test ride. Get in touch with somebody like the English Electric Motor Company that have supplied this bike for me. Organise a test ride and go out there and try it. You may not like it, I understand that, but I think there's a lot of naysayers that might change their mind when they jump onto the bike. For something like this, the SRS is a fantastic handling bike. It's got a really good sporty look, apart from the horrible pannier frame that they've bolted onto this one. It's incredibly comfortable to ride, and I think that's another pro of these bikes. It's not just the performance, it's the fact that they are very easy and very relaxing to ride. Again, quiet, silence. So this is just in street mode. There is an eco mode and a rain mode and a sport mode and a beast mode, and in beast mode it's absolutely ludicrous, but I tend to find that street mode is generally fast enough for what I want. It'll still do its maximum speed of 124 miles an hour, and the acceleration is nice. It just softens things off a little bit on the throttle, so it just dulls down that initial bite of the motor. But it does pretty well for the energy efficiency of the battery as well, so it helps to increase the mileage. Obviously eco mode is going to stretch that mileage out even further, but I think street seems to be a pretty good mix. Obviously one of the cons for electric bikes can be the weight. By the time you put a huge battery and the electric motor in there, they can get pretty hefty. I can't remember the numbers off the top of my head, so I'll put them on the screen for this bike. So I wouldn't say it's a heavy bike, but it's also not the lightest bike in the world. But the difference with it is all of that weight is down low. The battery and the motor all sit right down at the bottom of the frame. There's nothing in here. You've got the extra charge tank and gubbins and electronics and stuff all up here, but there's no weight up here, so the centre of gravity is incredibly low, which makes it incredibly stable. And actually when you start pushing this through the twisties, it's a really engaging bike to ride. Look at that, I can go past the tea room now. I'm not upsetting any of the genteel folk of Felsted. I guess one other negative of this in terms of the battery that we've been talking about is the form factor of a motorcycle doesn't really help with the range. It's unlike a car where you can shove quite a few more batteries and bits and pieces underneath it and fill it up to get more range. You're kind of limited with the bike as to where you've got space to put stuff. This will change. I think bike design will change. There's some quite radical new designs coming out which are changing the look of bikes, and that's enabling more battery power to be added. But because of weight and space, you've only got so much you can do, so that's always, until the battery technology or the drivetrain technology improves, always means that you're going to have a range on these which is going to be lower than you'll get in a car. Now this bike will do in mixed roads, bit of motorway, bit of this kind of road, about 100 miles to a fully charged tank. You could probably eke it out a little bit more in eco mode to maybe 120, and a lot of people see that as a negative, and I understand that. But I know a lot of people. I had a friend that used to ride a Harley 48, and within 60 miles, 60-70 miles, we're looking for a petrol station. And that's the difference. I don't think it's the range that's the problem, it's the charging time. If you only could do 100 or 120 miles on this, but you could pull into a service station and charge it up in 5 or 10 minutes, I don't think that would be a problem. People would accept that. The difficulty that you've got at the moment is you've got 100 miles range, and then you've got a considerable more amount of time to be able to charge it. Now those things are getting quicker. DC bikes can charge much quicker, and that's the technology that's improving. But this on a fast charger, maybe an hour and a half, so it's not desperate, but it's certainly not as convenient as a petrol engine bike would be. If you're out riding in a group and everybody's riding one of these, that's not so much of a problem. But if you're in a mixed group and you've got people with a standard combustion engine and a mix of that and electric, then you're soon going to be upsetting the guys on their standard bikes when you're having to plan your route around electric charging stations and stopping for longer to give it a top up. So that is a negative to hang your hat on. It's not necessarily a deal breaker, and of course if you're commuting, then it's not really an issue at all, as long as your commute's not over 100 miles. As long as you've got somewhere to plug it in and charge it up during the day, then it becomes a very cheap machine to use for commuting. it costs you pence to charge it, not forgetting the congestion charges that are being included in lots of cities now, and being an EV, it avoids that. So we've looked at the noise, and you can decide whether that's a pro or a con. We've talked about the performance, which from my point of view is definitely a pro. The charging and everything is a little bit more problematical. You do have to plan your routes. You need to have an app. There's a decent app called Zap Map, and that shows you where all the electric charging points are, what type they are, and whether they're being used or not, and all that sort of bits and pieces. So that's a really handy. You do have to do a bit of planning if you're going to go on longer journeys, and it's going to take you a bit longer. But that's just something that, you know, you have to live with these bikes. One of the other positives for these bikes is the maintenance. You've got very few moving parts. Without the internal combustion engine, essentially the servicing for these bikes is tyres, brakes, suspension, and that's about it in terms of parts. So the ongoing care, I know that we'll talk about price as well. The price of these is tends to be higher, which it is for all electric vehicles, but the ongoing running costs are low and the maintenance costs are low. English Electric, if you buy your bike from them, they have a mobile service technician. He will come out to your house and service the bike, and essentially it's a check over of those bits that we should all be checking before we go out for a ride anyway, and then they'll hook the machine up to a computer and they'll check the battery health and the motor and those sort of things. It's a belt drive as well, so that's maintenance free. And the maintenance costs are low as well. You're looking at £150, something like that, for an annual service, and that's for somebody to come out to you and do that. So incredibly cheap to run. I know people are off put by the prices of them an outlay, but going forwards they're not that heavy on the wallet. And I think that's an aspect that kind of gets forgotten sometimes on these reviews. It's very easy to get hooked up on the negatives, and the only real negatives I see on the reviews are the range, the charging time and the price. I don't disagree with those. These bikes are expensive, but that's the same with electric cars. So there is a premium, and I don't know if that's down to the technology or whether it's just a new vehicle tax, if you like. The motors, I'm guessing, are not overly expensive, and as I say, maintenance free. They're just one unit that you drop in, but it's the batteries that you're paying the big money for to get efficient use of those. But that is what it is, and that's the sort of thing that will change. Prices are coming down. So although this has got a kind of a sportier look to it, it's very happy on motorways or country lanes like this. The suspension's really nice and plush. We've got really good brakes on here. It's an incredibly comfortable bike to ride. The seat's nice and broad. The riding position is pretty upright. I was going to say you could go a long way on this, but you're only going to go 100 or so miles at a time. That instant torque that you get is quite addictive. The steering is sharp and it's quick. It's got tons of grip. As I've already mentioned before, the centre of gravity is incredibly low, so that helps to make it really easy to manoeuvre around, as well as manoeuvring around when you're pushing it. Here's one problem: there's a guy on there on a bike that probably hasn't heard me. I'll give him a toot. It is an incredibly fun machine to ride, and I found that with any of the electric bikes that I've ridden. I could see me owning one of these, and you will always get into a conversation with another biker. It always draws a crowd. It's always bringing people over to have a chat. But as I say, if you haven't tried one, don't just dismiss them out of hand. Go and give one a go. Give the guys at English Electric a call. They can set you up with a test drive on anything in their range, and I think you will have a whale of a time. Nice bit of windy road, and I'm still in street mode. I'm not even going to bother putting it into sports or beast. As you can see how well it picks up, and it's just so smooth and so seamless. Brakes are good, but tip it into a bend and it holds the position, it tracks it nicely, it's not doing anything unusual. We've got really good suspension on here, very reassuring, very sure-footed, very confidence inspiring. And as I say, for pure riding pleasure, it's fantastic. So while we're stuck behind this Audi and waiting for a place to overtake him, run through of the pros and cons. Noise is, I think it's a pro. Some people would think it's a con. Performance is definitely a pro. Ongoing running costs and maintenance is a pro. Range and charging is a con when you compare it to a standard combustion engine. But the riding experience, I think, is equally a match for any combustion engine bike, if not maybe even a little bit better. I was hoping to show you a little bit more of its flowing litheness through here. It's not the easiest place to overtake. So here we go. I've got room to get past him now. And again, you've got plenty in reserve when you want to make an overtake. Just twist that throttle and it just keeps pulling and pulling and pulling. Trust me, go and try one, you'll love it, you will absolutely love it. I know there's purists that will never go for one of these and are ruining the day that combustion engine bikes are not going to be here. And obviously we're a long way from that at this point in time. If you're a naysayer and you haven't tried one, go and give it a ride. If you don't like it after that, that's fine, but please don't be one of those people that goes, no, electric bikes rubbish, never going to do them, horrible things. Just go and give it a ride. If you really enjoy riding, then I think you're going to love these. Another con, if you like, as in a pro and con, not a con as in a rip-off. Because of this charger, you do tend to find that you have to carry your own charging cable around with you. The cables are not massive. You can get one in a top box, you can get one in a tank bag or a bag on the back. For most of your riding, you're fine, you just keep an eye on the range. But if you're going to be out doing any longer distances, then certainly for the majority of the charging stations that I visited, you will need your own cable. I don't know if that will change, and I don't know if over time there'll be more tethered options available. Okay, so I went home earlier on and put the panniers on, and been out and done a few more miles on a beautiful day today, and I've got a range down to, it's telling me 18 miles at the moment. So let's go and give it a charge. Now I'm a complete noob to this, so this is an interesting test to see how I get on. I've got the charging cable that I need, and I'm going to be charging it at what is the world's first all-electric forecourt. It's a place called Gridserve. Okay, so there it is, Gridserve electric forecourt. So there you can see the tethered chargers there. There's the charging cable that you need to carry around with you, type 2 charging cable. There we go, sorted now. There we go, we're charging now. Seems like a good idea. While that's charging, I will go and grab myself a coffee and a sandwich. So there you go, less than an hour. I've had a drink, something to eat, and a bit of a rest, catch up on emails. The bike has gone from 17% charge or 18% charge up to 100%, and it cost me £2.32 to do that. And you've got to remember that obviously it's going to be more expensive to pay for a charge here than it would be to plug it in and charge it at home. So with that done and dusted, I'm going to go for a bit more of a ride, and then I'll bring you a conclusion when we get back. I'd also, whilst I'm here, like to say a big thank you to the staff at Gridserve for the nice friendly welcome. So if you have got an electric vehicle, car or bike, then it's well worth a trip out to here, charge up, have a nose around, get a drink, have a chat, and be on your way. So there you have it. Those are my pros and cons for riding and owning an electric motorcycle. It's a little bit of a long video, but I wanted to make sure that I covered each of those aspects in as much detail as I thought was pertinent. So thank you for those of you that have stuck with this video. I'll leave links in the description to English Electric Motorcycles and to Zero and to Gridserve. So if you want to go away and find some more information about that, you can do. Now, I'm sure I'm going to get inundated with a lot of comments on this video, but if you've got any genuine questions concerning the Zero SRS or electric bikes in general or anything in this video, then drop a comment in the section down below and I will try my best to answer that for you. If you like the video, hitting the like button is great for the algorithm. My subscription numbers are picking up as well, so if you haven't already, hitting the subscribe button and the notification bell will be greatly appreciated. And until next time, I just want to say thanks for watching, take care, ride safe, and I'll see you soon. Bye.